They've even announced a sequel, which I'm all for. I just hope they up the effort a little bit and deliver something just a bit more special. Well, it's still bad. Hey everyone, at last we got the Winnie the Pooh horror sequel nobody asked for. Blood and Honey 2. And I feel like I'm living in Bizarro World or something, as the film debuted on Rotten Tomatoes with a score of 100%, and it still holds an 81% audience score. Did I watch the wrong movie? I guess when you compare it to the first Blood and Honey, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, then yeah, perhaps it's a slight improvement. Bigger budget, bigger body count, more monsters. Okay, it's still bad though. Oh, where to even begin? I guess let's start with the first issue I have for this movie, which is the same I had for the first one. Despite being associated with the Winnie the Pooh IP, this still has nothing to do with Winnie the Pooh and his gang. It's just a slasher movie with people in furry suits. Is it so hard to have Tigger bounce on his tail? God damn, why make a horror version of Winnie the Pooh if you don't have any interesting or original ideas for it? Oh, right. Take a look at something like Lies of P, which is a Souls-like video game about Pinocchio. Now, I'm no epic gamer, but I played it and I loved it. Most of the characters and story points are there, and you can very much recognize that this is in a Pinocchio universe. They took elements from the source material, but they turned that world into a fucked up nightmare with killer robots and monsters. They took the IP and made something original and interesting with it. It's clear that they made a Pinocchio game because they had a specific vision of what to do with that universe, not because it entered public domain and they could make a quick buck off it. Here's another example. Look at Meat Canyon's content. He takes beloved childhood characters and turns them into atrocious nightmares. It's so creative and effective and fun. There's a lot of passion and talent involved. So when you compare those to Blood and Honey 2, where Pooh is just an angry furry bear decapitating people for 90 minutes, it's just not enough. The big new thing this film has to offer is Tigger. Tigger's in the sequel, everyone, for about 15 minutes, and I guess they confused Tigger with Freddy, because all he does is say bitch while clawing and slashing people. Bitch. Again, nothing to do with the actual character. I guess props for being silly and having fun with the one-liners, but then again, the rest of the movie takes itself so incredibly seriously that when Tigger Kruger shows up and gets all silly, it almost feels out of place. Otherwise, the other monsters are back, and they look like they're just clocking in for the job. Ugh, gotta kill some humans again. Here we go. It's like nobody's having fun. Either give them fun personalities, or make them threatening. Add some physicality and charisma to your bad guy. These monsters look so bored, and they're not scary. They're not shot in a way where they feel menacing and otherworldly. Nah, most of the time they'll just cut to a close-up of one of the monsters. Oh, there it is. Okay. The way you shoot your monster is as important as the way the monster looks. The spider head from The Thing wouldn't look as great if it hadn't been shot properly. So when you cut to a flashback of young Pooh and he's just out in the daylight, it comes off as silly. I think Owl is probably the coolest of the bunch, and he's actually pretty scary. He can fly and snatch people away, and he's one of the few that feels like a threat, so that was nice, because all Pooh can do is awkwardly run at you. Christopher Robin is also back. Remember that fantastic character? And there's an attempt to flesh him out here, but it's incredibly bland and manipulative. Hey little sister, I love you so much. We're so happy and quirky together. Oh, I love you, mom and dad. I love you, boring girlfriend with no personality. They try to make him a real character, but it's impossible not to feel like it's just padding in between the kills. I guess it doesn't help that the dialogue is... oof. It's not great. People are just reading their lines, and nothing feels genuine here. When he's on the phone with his girlfriend or having a conversation with his little sister, I'm not immersed in those moments and in the characters, because all I see is two actors going through the motions, just pretending to laugh and be happy, and just waiting to hear cut. Here's a little compliment though. There is some new lore sprinkled here and there, and those scenes were probably the most interesting. There's some stuff about Christopher Robin's childhood and the time he spent with Pooh and his other friends, and I found it to be, dare I say, almost kind of clever and interesting. We also learn more about how the monsters came to be, and that was fun. But they only scratched the surface before getting back to decapitations and bad acting. It's as if they had some ideas on how to expand this universe, but then they didn't really know what to do with it. so it ends up just feeling like an afterthought. Now you could say, we're not here for the story and the writing and the characters. We're here for the bloodbath. A movie like Terrifier is a gore fest without much of a plot, and that has quite the fan base. But thing is, although I'm not a big fan of that first Terrifier, I can still say that it has very memorable and creative kills. Say what you will about the film, but nobody could make a Terrifier movie quite like Damien Leone does it. In Blood and Honey 2, you just get decapitations over and over again, as well as a surprising amount of off-screen kills, chopping heads off, ripping faces off, shoving a face in a bear trap. That's all fun for gorehounds, but it's nothing special that we haven't seen before. And it's not shot very well either. Pooh and the other monsters often feel awkward and stiff, especially in a quote-unquote fight scene in the woods against rednecks. They don't look like very competent killers. I couldn't take them seriously. What's more, the kills don't have any impact on the story. Similar to what I once said about Halloween Kills, they just stop the plot from going forward to introduce a bunch of characters that you know nothing about, and then they immediately get killed, and then we get back to the story and the main character until they stop it again to introduce some more people that immediately get killed, and then just do that over and over for the whole movie. I don't care about the kills if I have no idea who's getting killed. Friday the 13th victims have better developed characters. There is one rave scene that's actually pretty fun, so look that up when it's out on YouTube. It's a pretty enjoyable 5-minute scene. In the end, Blood and Honey 2 might be a slight improvement over the last piece of shit they made, but this still very much feels like a fan film to me. Had this been a free fan film on YouTube, it would have been perfectly fine. Some fun gore here and there, and everything else is incredibly mediocre, but you know, it's young filmmakers having fun making a little horror movie. But when you have to pay full price for a ticket, expecting to watch a real movie, and that's what you get, again, it's just not enough. I'm sure they're having a blast making these movies, and they're not planning on stopping anytime soon, but it somehow feels very lazy. Yes, it had a bigger budget, better monsters, better kills, better cinematography. Yeah, it's starting to look like a real movie, but besides the obvious technical improvements, what does this movie offer that's new and interesting? Who was this made for? What was I made for? Shut up, gorehounds are gonna be left unimpressed, creature feature fans are gonna get awkward guys in costumes that aren't scary in the slightest, and fans of simply competent and original horror films are essentially getting a mediocre fan film. Listen, making movies is incredibly hard, I get it. Props for trying something. It just wasn't for me. Watch this if you like to see a yellow furry bear decapitate people. You're gonna get some mild amusement out of it, I'm sure. But otherwise, despite the bigger budget, I don't see how this is such a big improvement over the first one. It's the same old shit with no ounce of creativity and a whole lot of laziness. Also, the movie ends with a very out-of-place shitty pop song. What the hell was that about? But some people seem to like the movie, so don't take my word for it, I guess. Apparently they've announced a Pooh-niverse now. Yeah, more like Pooh-niverse. Am I right? I give Blood and Honey 2 2 honeypots out of 5. Do better. Well, that's about it. Until next time, keep watching horror movies. It's good for your health. Bye-bye.